Okay, I'm gonna share my screen and we'll get started then. So can you guys hear me well? If you can hear me well, just then let me know in the chat. So we're going to be having this session in English, all right? So don't worry if you can't understand anything. You can just leave if you want to. But I have to do this in English. Otherwise, I'll not be able to explain this to you as well, because everything that I'm going to be reading is in English. But again, some of you may not understand me. That's going to be a problem. So let me know if we should do this in English or in Uzbek. Again. O'zbek tilida qilaylikmi yo ingliz tilidami shuni aytib qo'yinglar. Chunki videoda anaqa qilish ham mumkin, ko'rishi mumkin ba'zilar va ba'zilar tushunmasligi mumkin hozir. Lekin yaxshi. A lot of you guys are telling me that we should do this in English. Great, then great. We'll do this in English, no problem. English, great, thank you. Now, all right, let's get to it then. IELTS reading passage 1. Today, I'll show you the strategies that I use when I deal with reading passage 1. All right. So there's nothing really special to talk about, though, guys. I don't really have any special technique that I use when doing reading passages, but I'll tell you a few things you need to know about IELTS reading passage 1. So it's important to understand the passage type. Okay, in passage 1, you usually have the kind of passage that checks your ability to understand facts, to understand details and specific things. So usually in passage 1 you have descriptive passages, all right, descriptive or factual passages. What that means is a lot of what we'll be reading is heavy in description and facts. So there's going to be a lot of numbers, there's going to be a lot of names, right? So it's not really heavy because all that passage 1 does is inform you on something. It's informative, right? So the passage type that appears in passage 1 is usually descriptive and factual. So it could be about a history of a particular event, or it could be let's say about a particular person, right? Or explaining a particular concept, right? All the while using pretty simple, easy to understand English, all right? And giving you some descriptions along the way. Now, please guys don't draw on the screen. I'm probably gonna have to not allow you to draw. All right, so just a second. Thank you. Now, it's a descriptive passage, all right, which means that, like, why is it important to know the type of the passage? Well, it's important because it helps you know whether or not you should start with the passage or the question, all right? Usually with passage 1, you should start with the questions, because the passage is easy to understand and there's not too much implying. There's very little part of part 1 where you need to imply things, infer, right? So then another thing you need to know about passage 1 is that you should spend around 10 to 15 minutes, all right? 10 to 15 minutes to deal with this, because like I said, it's very easy. And yeah, that's how you're supposed to do it. And also, why 10 to 15 minutes? Why not 20? Because they suggest that you spend 20. Well, they just say that you should, right? Should. It's a suggestion. It doesn't mean you have to, right? So you can easily finish a passage 1 in just 10 minutes, as long as your reading skills are up to par. Which brings me to my next point. Reading is all about, your comprehension. If you're not able to understand something, it means that you're not ready to do the passage, to take the IELTS reading test. because if you can't understand reading passage one, all right, well enough, then you shouldn't start reading at all. Now, with that being said, how do I personally approach reading passage one? The first thing I do is, like always, read the title without even going to the questions. What I do right away when I have the question is, when I have the passage, is look at the title. And how does it help me to look at the title? Well, for it helps you in a number of ways. Like, for one, when you look at the title, you sort of like tap into your ability to predict what's about to come. We humans are masters of prediction. So why do people collect things? Like, when I read it, well, like, my brain, right, already has something about this. All right, so I know something about collecting, right? So what I do when I read the title is make a connection between what I already know about the passage and what I'm about to read it. And it kind of helps me. It sort of elicits, right? It elicits, it means it, what's the easier word for elicit? It sort of generates, my brain generates some similar or familiar words. All right, so the words that are related to this topic, you know what I mean? So in this way, I am better able to approach this task, approach this particular topic. Now, why do people collect things? So I'll try to think in my head. Well, people collect things because it's a hobby. You know, we have this inherent love for collecting things. Like, we like when things are complete, right? So when a particular collection of things is not complete, we tend to go nuts. We don't like it when things go wrong. So that's why we do it. And probably because we do collect things because we want to tell a story to other people about our lives, or maybe collection is something that people do professionally. But I'm guessing, since this is a passage one, since this is a text, since this is an article, it's gonna go deep, right? It's gonna dive into the psychological factors, I believe. So right now, um, yes, also, reading the title helps us uh, understand the main idea, right? The gist of what we're about to read. And the next thing I do, right, if the title is not clear enough, I read the subtitle. But since this title is self-explanatory, in the sense that I already understand it just by reading, I don't have to read the subtitle. And if there is no subtitle, and when the passage title is a little hard to understand, what I do is basically read the first paragraph, all right? But since that's not the case now, I don't have to. And the next thing I do is go to the questions. I survey the questions, right? And when I survey the questions, what I mean by that is I just look through the questions and highlight the most important words, in which case keywords, right? And try to understand, try to zip through these questions. So let's go then. Dr. Maria Richer. So keywords can be twice. Like, there are two types of keywords, like one fixed keywords and the other is mild keywords. Fixed keywords are like this, Maria Richer. They are the keywords that help us find the location of the answer, because they don't change, right? When you go to the passage, Maria Richer will not be paraphrased, will it? Right? And in the same way, numbers or particular fixed keywords, right? They don't change when you go to the passage, and that is important, right? And there are also mild keywords which help us find the answer, right? Get the correct answer, not just find the location, but actually find the answer. Now, the next thing I do is, so Dr. Maria Richer believes that people become interested in collecting in early childhood. Okay, so collecting early childhood, right? Great. A form of collecting may be helping some ancient humans to survive. Okay, that's another idea, right? Collecting may be helping some ancient humans to survive. All right, so we need to find if that's true. Leonard Woolley, right, expected to find the remains of a private collector at UR. So did he expect to find the remains of a private collection at UR? Okay. Uh, Woolley found writing that identified some of the objects he discovered. All right. So did he find writing identified the objects he discovered? Princess Anigaldi, all right, established her collection. Established means discovered her collection to show off her wealth. Okay. So guys, by the way, uh, now you may not learn much when I'm going through these, all right, but my well, today the only thing that I'm going to be doing is show you how I deal with the passage one, and I will also sort of like explain to you the answers that I choose, right? And I'll also probably tell you a little about my approach to each question type, and show you how I deal with them, just for practice, right? Just to improve our skills. Now, so let me see. Displaying artworks was the main purpose of cabinets of curiosities. Displaying artworks. Right. Now moving on. What do I do next? Well, I move on to the next question type, and I highlight the keywords of that particular what is it question type, right? Now, one word. And by the way, guys, it's important that you pay attention to the word count, to the number of words you are allowed to use. So in this case, there's only one word we can use. Some significant private collections. So when you have a question type like this, which is note completion, it's important that you pay attention to the title as well, because some significant private collections, it means that this is all about significant private collections. And then these timelines definitely help us as well, because they are an indicator of where the answers to the, for example, 7th, 8th, 9th questions are located, right? So the Medici family made their money from what? So when I have these questions, I also tend to make predictions, just like we tend to make predictions with part 1. You guys remember? Or part 2, like where we take notes. Here, the Medici family made their money from, well, what? Made their money from. So this is about collecting, right? So made their money from collecting, maybe. Well, this looks too easy to be true, but we'll still, collecting, made money from collecting. At the Palazzo Medici, right, there was a hidden studio which had no something, right? So at the Palazzo Medici, right, there was a hidden studio which had no, what may they not have, which had no uh object, right? Uh, Object that is found in a studio. Okay, guys. Now, if I can't find the word, then I just guess the description of the word. So we're looking for something that is supposed to be in a hidden studio, but it wasn't there. All right. So you see what I'm trying to do? I'm sort of like enabling myself to understand what is going on, right? Okay. So old worm. All right. So old worm like to show when other scientists had mistakes. Okay, had made mistakes. Old worm made an important something of a bird, made an important discovery, maybe, right? So guys, pay attention to the collocation as well. When you know the grammar, it helps you all the way. Now, an important discovery, right, of a bird. It may turn out to be true, by the way, guys, as long as, especially if you are, well, predictions are good. Lady, uh, Lady Charlotte Guest created a collection of something which she left to a museum. What could it be? Collection of probably like, art, right? Or I don't know, coins, anything, right? Joseph Mayer paid for something that are still given to the public today. Okay, so what did he pay that is still given to the public, right? So paid probably money, all right, or paid that are still given to the public, something like that, all right. Beatrix Potter. Beatrix Potter did not give away her collection of something. Well, let's see what it is. Some significant questions. What could be significant? Her collection of artwork, whatever, right? So anything that comes to your head. Franklin D. Roosevelt believed collecting helped him deal with the something of his job, with the stress of his job, maybe, right? With the stress, pressure. You see what we're doing here, guys? That's also what you're supposed to do when you deal with passage ones. Now, what do? I usually, right, in passage 2 or passage 3, I would what is it? I would sort of read the whole thing. But since this is passage 1, I'm just gonna be highlighting the relevant parts, and I'm gonna do it like that. All right. So let's start with true was reacher, interested, and early childhood. Let's find keywords of that. So Maria, it's right there. And by the way, guys, I didn't do this passage, okay? I wanted this to be as spontaneous as possible, so I may make mistakes because my reading is like not perfect, right? So psychologist Maria Richer. So what else? Like early childhood, human characteristics, toys. So I guess this is where the answer comes from, and I'm gonna highlight this part as the get confused later on. Now, what do I do then? I try to read this part carefully now. So people from almost every culture love collecting things. They might collect stamps, books, cards, priceless paintings, or worthless ticket stubs to old sport games. Might hang on the walls of a mansion or be stored in a box under the bed. So what is that drive to collect? Psychologist Dr. Maria Richer argues that the urge to collect is a basic human characteristic. Okay, so that's what she says. It's a human characteristic. It's what everyone does. And if you guys noticed, I read very fast, right? I mean, I don't want to boast or anything, but I try to read fast, not because I can, but because I have to, because I'm like always in a hurry. I'm always busy. So I guess this is what helps me with my reading. Like I don't really know any tricks or techniques, and I don't really teach them to my students. And the only thing that I did to improve my reading score was basically reading, right? I read on a daily basis. Like most of what I do on a daily basis is read things. That's why my speaking is good, and that's why my writing is good, and that's why my reading is good. Reading is the key. Okay, and these positive relations are the starting point of our for our fascination with collecting objects, right? Okay, so by the way, I didn't read this part. According to her, in the very first years of life, we form emotional connections with lifeless objects such as soft toys. And these positive relations are the starting point for our fascination with collecting objects. So, in fact, the desire to collect may go back further still. Wow, I love the language use. Even further, that's what they mean. So now I read that part. I understood what it was, right? So I try to sort of summarize that part, and that's what you guys should do as well, especially with multiple choice questions in passage, IELTS reading and matching headings. Now, with that being said, let's move on to this part. Dr. Maria Richards believes that people become interested in collecting in early childhood. So now let's try to, what I do with suppose not given questions in my head is I try to turn it into a question, right? I basically add this phrase, is it true, right, that, and then blah, 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 right? So is it true that Dr. Maria Richer believes that people become interested in collecting in early childhood? Yes, no, I don't know, right? So if I say yes, right, it means it's true. If I say no, then it must mean it's false. And I need to be able to back up my claim, right? No, why? Well, because it's not that they are interested in that. They don't develop interest in early childhood, but they do it in adulthood or something. There's going to be an opposing point. But if you can't justify yourself, it's not given, right? So not given means I don't know. Not given doesn't mean it's not given. Otherwise, it would have been very easy, right? To choose it as a not given. But not given means I don't know, right? So it could be yes or it could be no. I don't know. You know what I mean? So we will. I'll show you what I don't know means when we move on to the not given part. So it's actually yes, right? So is it true that Maria believes that people develop interest in collecting in early childhood? Yes, it's true. Why? Well, because she says that, right? It's a basic human characteristic. We develop emotional connections with lifeless objects such as toys, right? And this is an example of how we like to collect. And this is sort of like, and what we do later on in our lives as adults is sort of like the extension of what we do in our early childhood. You know what I mean? So that's that. Now moving on. How about the next one? A form of collecting may have helped some ancient humans to survive. Let's look for the keyword ancient humans. So here, hundreds of thousands of years, right? So ancient humans. So okay, so I guess that's where it's coming from, which teaches you guys another lesson. The answer to the questions, to true false not given questions, always, if not, well, yeah, sometimes the order may change, but the answers to the question, true false not given questions, come in order. What that means is you find the answer to the first question first, and then the second. You see, this way it's easier. Now, let's read this part more carefully. Scientists suggest that for some ancient humans living hundreds of thousands of years ago, collecting may have had a serious purpose. Okay, that's great. What was that purpose? Only by collecting sufficient food supplies to last through freezing winters or dry summers could our ancestors stay alive until the weather improved. Okay, so that's a great point, right? So this part says that collecting had a purpose, and that purpose was to help ancient humans to survive, right? Okay, moving on, moving on. Let's read this part and try to answer that. Is it true that a form of collecting may have helped some ancient humans to survive? Absolutely. And that form of, is it true? Yes. Why? Because, if you're able to justify yourself, it must mean that it's true because, collecting, right? So the form of collecting is sufficient food supplies, right? Collecting food. It helped them survive. And what does survive here mean? Well, they went through the winter or freezing winters or dry summers um, alive, right? So that's what it means. So that's the answer to the second question. Now let's try to answer the second one, the third one. Leonard Woolley expected to find the remains of a private collection at Ur. We need to find Ur and Leonard. Where is that Leonard guy? Leonard Woolley and Ur. Okay, here it is. The answer is right there. And we try to read this one now. And to you guys, everything that I'm doing right now may look very easy because my reading is pretty solid. So if you also want to be able to score 8.5 on reading, all you need to do is read every single day to improve your reading comprehension and do a bit of technique practice. And that should go a long way. It turns out that even collecting for pleasure has a very long history, right? In 1925, the archaeologist Leonard Woolley was working at a site in the historic Babylonian city of Ur. Woolley had traveled to the region intending only to excavate the site of a palace. So he wanted to excavate the site of a palace. Like you guys probably know what a palace is. Excavate means to dig. Instead, to his astonishment, sorry, it means he was surprised that he dug up artifacts which appeared to belong to a 2,500-year-old museum. Among the objects was part of a statue and piece of a long building. And among some of the artifacts were descriptions like modern-day labels. These texts appeared in 3 languages and were carved in pieces of clay. It seems like that this early private collection of objects was created by Princess Enigaldi, the daughter of King Nabonidus, right? However, very little else is known about Princess Enigaldi or what her motivations were for setting up her collection. Great. Now, I kept reading. I kept reading because I felt like I was not getting enough answer. So Leonard Woolley basically excavated the site. He was looking for the remains of a palace, but to his surprise, he dug up the artifacts of a museum, and inside the objects, among the objects, was a text which, what was it? It seemed like the early private collection of objects was created. These texts appeared in 3 languages and was carved into. Okay, so they had sort of like descriptions, right? And modern day labels, and all these objects were or they belonged to Princess Enigaldi, and they didn't know why she set up this collection. All right. Now let's try to answer one. Leonard Woolley expected to find the remains of a private collection at UR. Did he expect to find the remains of a private collection, guys? Is it true that he expected to find the remains of a private collection at UR? And just to give you a hint, private collection is the museum, all right? Really, did he expect that? All right, I'm waiting for your answers, guys. Come on. Only 41 of you are here, and yet 1, 2, 3, 4 false. I don't want you to tell me whether it's false or not. I want you to answer my question. Is it true that Leonard Woolley expected to find the remains of a private collection? No, he didn't, right? He didn't, which is why it's false. Why didn't he, expect that? Because it was to his astonishment, right? He didn't expect that because it was his astonishment, right? So it appeared to be a museum. So it was sort of like a private collection. So he didn't expect that. He was actually expecting something else. So you see, guys, what false is now. So that's it. That Woolley found, right, has identified some of the objects he discovered. Writing that identifies some of the objects he discovered. Let's see if that's true. I didn't quite understand that part. Was part of a statue and a piece of a local building, and accompanying some of the artifacts were descriptions like modern day labels. These texts appeared in 3 languages. Yes, it's true, right? So that's the part to the 4th question, right? These texts appeared in 3 languages and were carved into pieces of clay. Now, did he find writing that identified some of the objects he discovered? Yes, he did, right? The text was actually labeled description. It's the same thing as identify some of the objects he discovered. Okay. Princess Anne Galdi established a collection to show off her wealth. Is it true, guys? Guys, we already read that part. So Princess Galdi, right? It seems like that this early private collection of objects was created by Princess Anne Galdi. And however, very little else is known about Princess Anne Galdi or what her motivations were for setting up her collection. Is it true that she, she set up this whole thing to show off her wealth? Because there's no other mention of Princess Anne Galdi anywhere else, guys. So that should be where the answer comes from. Well, don't tell me, guys, it's not given. Just tell me you don't know. Thank you, Scrat. Yes, we don't know, right? Yes, we're saying no, but we can't prove if she did it to showcase her wealth or not. Maybe she did it to showcase her wealth. Maybe she didn't do it for that. Maybe she did it because she enjoyed it. You never know, because there was nothing. There was no concrete information regarding why she wanted to do it, right? You guys can see now. Can you guys see now what not given looks like and the difference between not given and false and true? So let me know. You don't know, right? You can't tell. Maybe it's true, maybe not. It's just not enough information for us to conclude that the answer is either true or false. Displaying artworks was the main purpose of Cabinet Curiosities. Let's now find Cabinet Curiosities. Cabinet of Curiosities. Displaying what was it actually? Artwork, right? So it was main. So here we have Cabinets of Curiosities. So it must mean that the answer comes from this part. Let's now try to read it. Actually, this is the part where the 5th answer comes from, and this is the part where the answer to the 6th question comes from. This may have been one of the first large private collections, but it was not the last. Indeed, the fashion for establishing collections may really got started in Europe around 2 years later with the so-called Cabinets of Curiosities. There were collections usually belonging to wealthy families. You see, guys, an average reader, an average IELTS candidate will definitely get confused with the mention of wealthy here. And that's what IELTS tries to do. It tries to trick you into thinking that, well, the word wealthy is given there, so it must mean that the answer to the 5th question is true, right? So that's what IELTS does to you. It sort of like messes with you, but you should not fall for that. And that's not to say that it's a hoax or anything. It's just that it's one of the skills that you need to deal with this. These were collections usually belonging to wealthy families that were displayed in cabinets or small rooms, right? Cabinets of curiosities typically included fine paintings and drawings, right? But equally important was given to exhibits from the natural world, such as animal specimens, shells, and plants. Now, guys, tell me. So let's summarize everything. So, after even after 2,000 years, right? There was a private collection called cabinets of curiosities, which were which were typical of wealthy families to, set up, right? They set up such cabinets. They were set up by wealthy families, and mainly, right? These included paintings and drawings, but the same amount of importance was given to natural things, animal specimens, shells, and plants, right? So now the question is it true that displaying artworks was the main purpose of cabinets of curiosities? Tell me, guys. Is it true that displaying artworks was the main purpose of cabinets of curiosities, or is it not? If the answer is true, right? For the answer to be true, yes, this like a lot of the reason why cabinets of curiosities display artworks must be because of artworks, right? For the answer to be false, something else was also as important, right? No, it's not, right? It was not the main reason. The main purpose was artworks and animals, right? So it was not the main reason. It was another reason, right? There were two main reasons. This was the main reason. This is a main reason, but not the main reason. You know what I'm saying, guys? So this is actually false. And I'm gonna have to take a short break because my phone is gonna die now. And it's important that I recharge it. So I'm gonna be back with my what is it? My charger. All right. Until then, you guys process whatever I told you now. So I'll be right back. Okay, I hope you can see me now again and hear me as well. We're gonna keep on now. So, all right, let's move on then. The next question type we have is notes completion, and this is pretty easy. So we're gonna find the relevant part using these subtitles like 15th, 17th century, 19th century, and 20th century. So let's go. Huh. I usually don't go back and forth the passage this way, all right? So I just read the whole thing. I usually, just like I said, because my reading speed is quite good, I just read one paragraph at a time and then go back to the questions. And this way it's more comfortable. Since not many of you guys may not have the same speeding, um, the same pace as I do, I decided to just do it this way. So here we have the late 14th century, and where is the actual 15th century? So, actually, where is it? 15th century, 19th century. You see, guys, what they did there? They specifically didn't use numbers so that it would be easier for us. Right there, 17th century, and 15th century. Actually, this is all right. So, all right, right. So, moving on, we've already found the relevant parts. All right. Now, what we'll do is read these uh like search for these keywords one more time. Medici family, money. Okay, so Palazzo Medici studio. All right. Medici family, where is it? Some significant private collections of the sort date from the 15th century. One of the first belonged to the Medici family. All right, the Medicis family. The Medicis became a. So all the answers for this type of question can actually be found on one exact paragraph. Isn't no, not always. Look, um, especially in passage one, typical that you once you finish one question type, the answers to the next question type comes from the remaining parts. But it's also possible sometimes that IELTS just skips one paragraph and then have the answer to the, let's say, sixth question come right here, and they skip two paragraphs in the middle. And those parts are usually designed for the next question type, okay? Or it can even be in a very messy way. For example, once you find the answer to the first question, the answer to the seventh question might come from here as well. But that's not to say the order will change. What I mean is, no, like never does the answer to the second question come after the answer before the answer to the first question. In true, false, not given, and note completion. It's very rare. So moving on. All right, the Medicis became a powerful political family in Italy and later a royal house. Pay attention, it's a royal house. It's become a royal house. But banking was originally the source of all their wealth. I found the answer to the seventh question, guys, already. Right? So can you guys tell me what the answer is? I found it here. Well, no. But I'm gonna keep you in suspense and I'm gonna keep reading. All right. The family started by collecting coins and valuable gems, then artworks and antiques from around the world, around Europe. In 1570, a secret studio was built inside. You see, guys, when we've got to the studio part, it already became apparent that the answer to the seventh question was right above it. Okay, so that's how the order of questions may help you. So that's the answer to the eighth question. This part is the answer to the eighth question. A secret studio was built inside the Palazzo Medici to house their growing collection. To house means to accommodate. All right, to house here is verb. This exhibition room had solid walls without windows to keep the valuable collection inside. To keep the valuable collection safe. So we've already found the relevant part. Now let's go back to the questions. Try to find the answer. The Medici family made their money from what? Guys, tell me, what was their source of income? We'll go up and you guys read it and will tell me. One of the first, the Medicis became a powerful political family in Italy and later a royal house, but banking was originally the source of all their wealth. Yes, it's banking, guys, all right? So you see, when you make a prediction, so we identified that they made money from collecting, but it turns out, right, when we actually read the part, turns out they made money from banking. And the answer to the seventh question is going to be banking. All right. It all makes sense, right? Money, right? And source of all their wealth. What is the source of all their wealth? It's banking. Now, next one. At the Palazzo Medici, there was a hidden studio which had no. All right. So what didn't the hidden studio have at the Palazzo Medici? What didn't it have? Let's go up there. So here it is, a secret studio. This exhibition had solid walls, but it didn't have what, guys? Didn't have? Tell me, hit me. I want everyone engaging. Any answers are welcome. All right. Rosada, Safura, all right. Yeah, guys, it's obvious, right? So windows, it had no windows. All right. And it matches with our description object that is found in a studio. Well, it didn't have any Windows. Okay, moving on. All Worm liked to show when other scientists had made mistakes. All Worm made an important something of a bird. What did he make of a bird? What did he make an important of a bird? Right? Like, let's see. What was his name? It's still there. Like in the 74 Worm. Another fabulous. Like, where is bird? Bird. Bird. I need bird. All right, so here it is. Let's read this now. In the 17th century, another fabulous collection was created by a Danish physician named Ole Worm. His collection room contained numerous skeletons and specimens, as well as ancient texts and laboratory. One of Ole Worm's motivations was to point out when other researchers had made mistakes. Okay, guys, pay attention. This was said before the ninth one. All right, so it must mean that the answer to the ninth question is pretty close. So, such as the that birds of a paradise had no feet. He also owned a great auk, a species of bird that has now become extinct, and the illustration he produced of it has been of value to later scientists. The answer comes from here. Now, let's try to go back to it and try to find the answer. Ole Worm made an important something of bird. What did he make? Pay attention. It must be correct in terms of, grammatically. It should be grammatically correct as well. It shouldn't just match, right, on a surface level, but it should also be grammatically correct. So read this part, guys. Where was it? What did he make? A collection. Did he make a collection of birds? Really? Of a bird. Pay attention. It's not just a bird, of a bird, right? So you can't say all made an important collection of a bird. No, you can't make a collection, by the way. Made a mistake of a bird. No. Auk of a bird. No. Now you guys are getting it. Yes, others are writing. So go back there and tell me what the answer is. Read it more carefully. He made an important, pay attention to the important part. Find the synonym of important and think about what that particular word could be collocated with. All right. Collocated with, what is it? Made. All right. Make. You can't say make a illustration. Sorry, make an illustration. Oh my God, I already told you the answer. So yeah, it's illustration, guys. It's illustration. Why? I'm gonna explain that. He also owned a great auk. Auk is a species. He owned it. He didn't make it. All right. It's a species of a bird. And guys, you can't tell he made a species. All right. Kural boyu species yarattı diyorlar. Allah'u bitte species yani turunu yaratmayı diyor, doğru mu? Illustration'ını yaratken make yasagen bakçıda. And qaytdan important ligine. How do we know it's important? Well, it has been of value to later scientists. It must mean that illustration is important. And here, guys, look, it's not, they didn't just lay it out simple, right? They didn't just, how do I put this? They didn't just show you that simple in a simple way, right? Hi guys. I'm terribly sorry. I'm actually at home, where there's no Wi-Fi. So I was doing this in my workplace where there was Wi-Fi, but here I'm using my internet connection, my own, what is it? My mobile data, my cellular data, which is why the internet is playing up. I hope you understand that. For the inconvenience. Now, let's get back to the real deal. Now, I hope my internet is very, very bad. Can you hear me, guys? Can you hear me? And or is it bad? Is it really, really bad? Just a second. All right. Thank you, thank you. Now, I hope you can see my screen as well, right? Can you hear? Can you see my screen? All right then. We'll get started right away. We'll actually pick up from where we left off. Where were we? So I was talking about referencing, guys. Referencing means pay attention to it. He produced is a synonym for made. If you guys remember earlier, he made an illustration is the same thing as produced an illustration. And it here refers to bird, right? He made an illustration of it. And what is it? Of it, right? It here means a species, right? This species, this great auk. And he made an illustration of that auk, a species of that bird. You know what I mean? So that's what it means. I hope referencing, it refers back to auk. And here IELTS checks your ability of, inferring this. Now, next question. 19th century, right? So here we have illustration. And we'll get rid of this. And if you've noticed, like this discovery, it was a little bit of it didn't, match that well, but still, it helped us. Now, in the 19th century, right, Lady Charlotte Guest created a collection of something which she left to a museum. All right, created a collection which she left to a museum. Something that she left to a museum. Okay, remember that key phrase. Something that she left to. What did she leave to a museum? Let's find the museum here. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, museum here, right here, right? So let's try to read that. The passion for collecting was just as strong in the 19th century, right? Lady Charlotte Guest spoke at least 6 languages and became well known for translating English books into Welsh. She also traveled widely throughout Europe, acquiring old and rare pottery, which she added to her collection at home in southern England. When Lady Charlotte died, this collection was given again, guys. Again, referencing, right? This collection, what collection, right? Her collection at home, a collection of what? Rare pottery, right? So to the Victoria and Albert. So here, right? She gave that collection to the museum. Now, what collection? Pottery, rare pottery. Now, let's come back. Created a collection of what? Which she left to a museum. Guys, tell me a collection of what? A collection of what? Here again, referencing here, this, what, that, this is our answer. Pottery, and acquiring rare pottery, which she added to her collection at home. Rare pottery, yes, rare pottery would have been a more suitable answer had we been asked 2 words, right? No more than 2 words, but we have 1 word, so we can't say rare because we need a noun. So pottery, right? Joseph Mayer paid for something that are still given to the public today. Something that is still given to the public, and not is, pay attention, are. So this has to be, this is not money, okay? This has to be plural, right? Something that are still, right? Given to the public. Let's see what paid is actually paid for. You can't say paid for money, right? Paid for, let's say, let's try to predict, guys. They're still given to the public. What do you guys think? What could he have paid for? Coins. That's great. That's great. We'll get this. We'll use that, right? So now, what was his name? Joseph Mayer. Uh, yeah, public lectures. Pay attention. Now, let's move on. And by the way, we forgot to mention this 10 right here, 11. Let's read this. A wealthy goldsmith named Joseph Mayer was building up an enormous collection of artifacts, particularly those dug up from sites in his local area. His legacy, the Mayer Trust, continues to fund public lectures in accordance with his wishes. Now, tell me, guys, what's the answer here? Lectures fund his... No, lectures, no, not lectures. And I'll tell you why it's not lectures, guys. Continue to fund his public lectures. It's already a synonym for which is still being used in public. And his lectures are being used in public. Exactly. Artifacts. His legacy, right, continues to fund. His legacy, pay attention. You could have said the answer was legacy, but again, here, the IELTS is checking us. The IELTS is giving us another referencing point, right? So we are again being forced to refer back. His legacy is the Mayer Trust. And what does that Mayer Trust house? It houses, right, artifacts, right? Mayer Trust is the collection of those artifacts. And the artifacts are his legacy because that's what he left. You know what I mean? If you leave something, that's what your legacy. And he built up an enormous collection of artifacts. And that's definitely, you know, how do I put this? It is giving us the clue. But yes, it was very obvious, but I'm trying to really explain it to you in detail. Now, moving on. Artwork, the answer was paid for artifacts, right? And how do we know he paid for it? Well, because it's funding it, right? If it's his artifacts, right? He built enormous collection of, you know, artifacts, and then one for one, guys, it matches grammatically, right? Artifacts, plural. And for another, paid. Well, how do we know that? Well, because he paid for it because it funds. It means that the Mayer Trust, he must have paid, right? Okay. Muhammad Siddiq. I see. Like, you probably saw the answers, right? Now I remember. Yeah. The answer is like he paid for. Right. It's lectures. Sorry, lectures. Why? Because, yeah, guys, I read too much into it. And what do I mean by that? I overthought. That's what happens with me. He paid for lectures that are still given to the public today. Oh, right. So public lectures, right? Public lectures, like, we could say that the lectures are given to the public, right? And he paid for those lectures. How? Using his trust, right? Sorry. Yes, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Now, artifacts, he probably didn't. Now I know he probably didn't pay for his what is it called? He didn't pay for the artifacts, right? He was building it. And I think lectures that are given to the public. Do you guys now? Yeah, do you guys now get it? Sorry for confusing you. Like, his legacy, the Mayer Trust continues to fund. Fund is the same thing as pay, right? And his legacy is him, right? He's still, you know, paying the lectures that are given in public, right? And also it makes grammatical sense, guys. By the way, I forgot. I didn't quite pay attention to it. Given to the public today. Pay attention to this one. So, given. It wouldn't make grammatical sense to say paid for artifacts that are still given to the public today. The artifacts are not given, right? The lectures are given. Sorry, I glossed over it. Gloss over means to read too quickly. I was just being in a hurry because, like, it's really getting it's getting late now. Anyways, moving on. 20th century, Beatrix Potter did not give away her collection of something. Okay, so did not give away her collection of something. Let's move on. Did not, right? Beatrice. 20th century. Okay. So that's the part. 12th question. Can you guys tell me the answer? Mm-hmm. All right. Yes, it's absolutely fossils, right? So she held on to it. It means she didn't give her away, right? What? Her collection of is the same thing as cabinet of fossils. Now, fossils, yes, absolutely. So, okay, fossils of, right? So that's the answer. Held on to her, it means she did not give away. Next, Dr. Roosevelt believed collecting helped him deal with something of his job. Let's find that. What is it? Is of his job? Collection as a child continued to his whole life. The president was easier to cope with. Taken out, okay, on his collection, his life, this and export to model ships, coins. Guys, the answer is obvious, right? Tell me the answer, everyone. Something of his job. Something that's related to his job is absolutely associated, means of, right? The stress of his being president, right, was easier to cope with. You guys see, we guessed right. You see, we did definitely guess it right, because stress, because it was obvious. Yep, that's how easy passage one is. And now let's check if we did everything correct. Banking windows, illustration, pottery, lecture. True, false, not true, false, true, not given, false. I'm gonna have to check because I am not that great at reading. How do I get rid of this, by the way? Just a second. All right, so. And you guys, did you guys remember our answers? I forgot now. At least we'll find the answer to the true, true, false, true, not given, false. Yep, not given. True. Yep, false. Yep, true, false, equal important. Yeah, we got all of it correct here as well. Yep, we got everything correct, and that's it. So the next thing I do, guys, if I make a mistake, I have this thing called analysis table, which we'll get on. All right, we'll do this analysis table later on. I'll show you how to analyze your mistakes and everything tailored with a custom made, table. And another thing that I do when I finish the passage is make a keyword table, right? So that's what you guys can do. You could, well, yeah, create a keyword table. Your homework will be to do one passage. I'm going to send you a passage, or if I can't send you a passage on time, you guys feel free to do one passage from Cambridge 17 or something, and do a keyword table, right? So make a keyword table for this one as well. I already explained to you how a keyword table is done last time, right? Like in our previous lessons when I taught you listening. So I guess that's it. You guys have any questions? Fine, mob. I don't think like that's the problem, because you just have to increase your reading pace. I believe like you need to read more, and then it will be a bit. Yeah, I think hopefully you should be able to memorize the questions. But I think I have the advantage because my memory is naturally solid. My memory is quite good. So probably because of that, it's not something that has to do with IELTS. All right. But if you do have memory problems, I mean, I don't think it has to do with your memory. No, you don't. You shouldn't just practice. Uh, you should read a lot on a daily basis. You should read every single day. And not only should you just read, you should also make it more challenging as you go along. So probably reading for time, and uh, just reading just for the sake of understanding. That should do it. I don't think there is any other way of memorizing these questions. You don't have to memorize them, by the way. You can just look at the questions, and you'll have the questions that in one page on one page, and you'll have the passage on the other. So this is how it goes. Okay, thank you for your attention. Gotcha. All right, you're welcome. One smile, one smile. Your question: do you recommend reading books or articles? Articles are better. For one thing, articles sort of like they are the same as passages. For another, they are shorter, so you're likely to read more of them, and you're likely to stick to them because they're not as boring as books. And books are actually not good at all for reading, especially fiction books. And self-help books are not good either because they only have one central theme, which you don't necessarily come across when you're reading IELTS. All right. Muhammad Sıddık cevaplarının birdaniga answershitga yozib ketganlikmi imtihonda yo'q. Javoblarni har passajdan keyin yozib keting. Har bitta passaj tugatganingizdan keyin, chunki o'zgartirishingiz mumkin-da keyin, to'g'rimi? Shuning uchun anaqa qilganingiz yaxshi. Har bitta passajdan keyin javoblarni passajga yozsangiz yaxshi. Oxirida yozishni ham maslahat bermayman, qolib ketadi. Vaqt tugab qolsa ayniqsa. So, don't you recommend Uzbek book in order to increase your Dilshad, what is it? Didn't you recommend Uzbek book in order to increase reading speed? What do you? How come? Like, oh my, no, not at all. If anything, you shouldn't read any books. Muhammad Siddiq, you're welcome. But this advice on you shouldn't read any book, it doesn't apply to your life, by the way. You can read whatever the kind of, you can read any books you want. But when it comes to IELTS, well, I don't think any books, like reading a book is necessary. So, like, right. Yeah, even then, like, I think academic books are probably all right. But Vali, what about other types of questions? What do you mean? I didn't quite understand your message. Jamshid, what tips do you have for better understanding of complex vocabulary and structures and IELTS reading passage? Well, read, man, read. Read something that you understand, not 100%, but like 60, 70%, and keep reading that for as long as you can. Sidebek, just go to my channel, and there you'll find, just search for the keyword articles, and you'll find a whole list of articles. All right. So all right, thank you guys for joining me at this ungodly hour. And I'm gonna have to log off right now. It's getting late. Muhammad, just to answer your question, what books do you recommend? I didn't what kind of lost. Which books do you recommend us to read reading questions as well? You mean like reading to improve your understanding of different questions? Official guide to IELTS reading, okay? Official guide to IELTS reading. Vali, well, you will never learn other types of questions in reading if you don't learn them. You should learn them on your own. How else am I supposed to teach you how to? I mean, in just 3 days, how am I supposed to teach you the question types? I don't think question types. The question types are not as important as the passage types, and they're definitely not as important as the your reading comprehension, your overall reading comprehension. What strategies can I use to remember and recall information from a reading passage? Jamshid, again, I'm telling you, you should read. You shouldn't ask me such questions if you don't read at least 2 pages a day, at least. What strategies can I use? Like, just forget about strategies, I don't like this obsession with strategies, guys. We all like shortcuts, when in reality, all we need is hard work. Like, I just talked about this in my free webinar on my channel just now, when I talked about how to activate words. we all think that there's some sort of technique to activating a word, like being able to use it in your speaking or in your writing, when in reality it's all hard work. And it kind of, you know, makes me sick when a lot of people tell me, you know, like ask me a lot of these simple silly questions, like what is it with people, like you just need to do, you know, do it. You know what they say, right? Just do it. Last one, how much time did you spend for improvement of English? Well, fine, mob. Probably, like, in general, with breaks included, probably 10 years. Yes, 10 years with all the breaks included. Uh, it's not, yeah, it's not an easy journey, believe me. Um, I mean, I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of spending 10 years on what I'm able to speak right now, right? I mean, I don't think 10 days, 10 years is like the, what is it called? What's the word? I don't think 10 years is what takes to score 8.5. You know what I mean? Uh, I genuinely believe that it's about the hours, right? Number of hours. It's too bad that I didn't study enough. But still, I am glad, I'm lucky that I have spent this much time on English, surrounded with English, because I've developed this natural tendency, right? I've developed this natural way of learning it, right? And because I've been immersed in the language and I didn't necessarily learn things like consciously, right? I was doing everything in a fun way, so I didn't quite notice that I was learning it. And I guess that's what helped me the most, because I was in this, you know, within this atmosphere for long enough. It just came naturally to me. And I think that's what everybody else is supposed to do. They should probably forget about shortcuts and everything. They should really, just like ULUGBEK says, they should dedicate uh, their lives to IELTS, just like I did. I mean, he makes fun of me for dedicating my whole life to it, but we're just close. That's why he does that. But it's true. You should. It takes time. You can't put a clock on language acquisition, guys. You can't. You can't put a clock on language acquisition. It's not math. It's not what is it? It's not technology. You know, uh, like, it's not a laptop. You know that if it breaks down, you can't guarantee someone that it will get fixed in 10 days or something. Uh, yeah, totally. It's a natural process. Thank you, Fine Mob, for your comments and for accompanying me. You're probably the only one who, you're probably the one who with more text than anyone else. So bye bye then, everybody. Take care. All the best. I had a lot of fun talking to you, teaching you. If you found this lesson useful, then let me know. If not, if you have any constructive feedback, I'm still open to that one as well. And sorry about that. Well, what is it, like that glitch, right? I really wasn't expecting that. So bye bye, everybody.